press space where I'm at. I have a storefront in northern Illinois, and that's where I do a lot of my practice. That's where I do most of my videos, and I have a little, let's say, a green room. Well, up front, it was a bit noisy. They're cleaning the street. So today I'm back here to invite you and welcome you into my sacred space. And I'm sure glad you're here. I'm Rita Hickman. I'm a body-mind expert and a shiatsu massage therapist, which means that I use those wonderful tools to help women who feel stuck inside of themselves, who feel stuck in toxic and narcissistic relationships, who feel stuck in their energy, stuck in their life, stuck in their job, because maybe they had trauma as a kid, or maybe they had narcissists in their life while they were being raised. A lot of women had narcissistic parents because of the situation, just because of the time that it was. You know, everybody was still in survival mode in my community, and so the focus needed to be on self. The focus needed to be on survival, and that's the lesson that I learned: survival. But you know what? We're in a time and a place now where we're so supported, where we're so loved, where we're so enlightened, where we have so much connection, so much opportunity to raise ourselves up, that that's kind of the direction we need to go. We personally are the latest technology of our world. And if it doesn't look very good right now, then it means that it's time for all of us, light workers and healers and empaths and codependents and highly sensitive nervous systems to all come together and start raising up our vibration. So what does astrology have to do with narcissism, right? So, you know, I've dabbled in some of the other things, the metaphysical stuff, most of my life, but there was always a part of me, a small part of me that says, yeah, but it doesn't really make sense. I didn't really buy into it, right? There were parts of it that because I couldn't logically make sense of it, because I couldn't figure out how it fit in or the science behind it, you know, there was a part of me that said, oh, this is nice, and I'm sure it's metaphorical, and I'm sure it gives good guidance, but it's good guidance for everybody all the time. You know, it's like watching a magician. You're like, sure, but I'm sure there's a magic trick, and, you know, I don't know what it is, but I'm not going to bother to figure it out. So at the beginning of this year, I had been working with a wonderful astrologer. She was coming to see me, and that was her passion. And so we'd always talk about astrology, and she'd tell me how she's figuring out where she was going to live based on geolocation and what was most astrologically helpful for her. And when she'd meet new people that she wanted to get closer to, she'd find out their birthday and run their chart. And it was really kind of crazy. And at the same time, my space, because I would do classes here, had some cool psychics, because we've got some cool psychics in Northern Illinois. And they're very grounded sorts of people. You know, one of them she was awesome. She was a truck driver. She was a construction worker. She was fantastic, just down to the earth, salt to the earth, wonderful. And then she introduced me to this wonderful Polish psychic. She's practically she practically lives in the woods in a gingerbread house, I swear to God. She collects cuckoo clocks, and she's so awesome. Anyway, so she landed in my life, and we were doing this barter, and it was like, yeah, okay, I'll work with you and you work with me. And so she gave me a reading, and in the reading, which was, you know, really just so cool and curious and interesting, she says, in January, you should get your astrological chart done. So I said, okay, I'll get my astrological chart done, because clearly I had an astrology expert in my life. So I said, hey, would you do my astrology chart? And she did. And she came back, my friend who did astrology, name's Jane. She came back and she says, oh my God, this is going to be a crazy, amazing year for you. She said, things are going to change, and all these auspicious things are going to happen, and this and that, and these are going to conjunct, and that's going to conjunct, and it's going to be a big year. And in January, we didn't know that it was going to be a big year. And I kind of just took it as, you know, okay, great. Hope it's a great year. Well, as we all know, you know, a few months later, this has turned into an epic kind of year for everybody. It's turned into a year where the whole world has been turned topsy-turvy. But what I had done in January is I took all of those dates that she'd given me and the messages that came with them, and I put them on my calendar. And what would happen is I would notice when I had an auspicious date coming up, and I would pay attention, notice what was going on, notice what was happening on the date, and then notice how it evolved at the other side. So I was watching the ebbs and flows. And what I started to find is that the astrological chart that she had created for me was matching up to the things that were happening not only in my life, but were also matching up to the things happening in the outer world. And I thought, well, that's interesting. This is really good advice. I'll just watch and follow it. And so I did. And what I started to realize is that in the dynamics of human relationships, in how we get along, on whether we are more self-absorbed and in fight or flight, or whether we're less self-absorbed and in fight or flight, is impacted by millions of different factors, which we have got literally no control over. You know, if someone's having a good day or a bad day, there's the ego part of us that says, I have to fix this. How is this my fault? How can I fix this? What can I do about this? Who am I? What's my responsibility? You know, there's always that part of us that says when something happens, how am I contributing to this? Especially if you come from trauma as a kid. Because one of the ways to survive trauma is to take all responsibility on yourself. Because what it at least does when you're a young child is it gives you a sense of safety, a sense of security, like somehow you've got control in the world, when in reality you just don't. When you're a kid and bad things are happening, it's just the way that it is. It's just life. But as a child, our child mind says, this is my fault. How can I control this? What can I do to change this? And we take all responsibility for ourselves and for everybody else in our lives on us. And what that creates is codependency. When you're traumatized and you start taking responsibility for everyone and everything around you, when you start trying to see what your part is, is this the right thing to do? Is this the rotten thing to do? What should I do? I don't know what to do. And we end up frozen and stuck because there's that part of us that still wants to figure it out because we haven't grown up yet. For us personally, we haven't grown up yet to see that there's way more involved in what's going on than just our small piece of it. You know, I felt responsible for my parents' happiness. I felt responsible for my sister's happiness. I felt responsible for the happiness of everyone around me. And I took it upon myself, and as a 4-year-old child, to say, I am going to, you know, be light and life in the world. You know, because that's what we do. So you find a lot of wonderful light workers and healers and empaths and compassionate people who dabble in energy medicine and help the people that they love. Because they usually feel it's a calling of some sort, a mission in order to help people. And what happens when you're codependent and you take responsibility for people? Well, the people around you, for the most part, will appreciate that. And they will like the fact that you are pretzeling yourself or bending yourself into something that that brings happiness and joy to the people around you. And businesses especially, they love codependent staff members because those are the staff members that get there early, that stay late, that are worried about everyone, that, you know, are the person that is the glue that holds everyone together, that's the coach. That's the person that a lot of companies like to have, responsible, get things done. The problem is that when you're codependent, you get pulled in so many different directions. You can't be present. You can't be present yourself. And so what happens is your body starts to break down. So in some ways, codependents help create narcissism because we look at the world and we take responsibility for the world and we try to fix the world, when in reality, it's way bigger than we ever thought or ever knew. And getting my astrological chart and following the ebbs and flows and looking to see what was happening and what was in alignment and what wasn't in alignment, looking at that, I realized that we live in a really big, complex sort of world. And the dynamics of relationships and of what anything happens to us or that we're a part of, it's a tapestry. So when we start looking at narcissism, we start looking at what causes us to be more in our narcissistic state, which is typically when we're stressed out. Guess what? Most people are really stressed out right now. This is a very stressful time. For a lot of people, it's painful, it's scary, it's overwhelming. So what's going to happen? What's going to happen is that people's narcissism, maybe you personally were able to keep yourself floating along, somehow making it work up until now, until you realized that there's a pandemic, there's stuff going on around the world, there's an election, there's so much going on, and we can't control it. And that's the lesson. The lesson is we can't control these things. They're way bigger than us. Now, the neat thing is once I got the chart done and once I started to, listen to it and pay attention to it and vibe with it and realize the only person I can take responsibility for is myself and my own well-being and my own happiness and my own balance, instead of looking for it from the people around me, which creates the narcissistic codependent relationship, is when codependents look for other people to solve their problems for them. And someone who wants their problem solved will find codependence. It ends up being a natural sort of fit, a natural sort of attraction. And unfortunately, if one or both hasn't done their own inner work, then healing is very painful and healing is very difficult, because you keep having your deepest fears and deepest wounds brought to the surface to be dealt with, because that's what healing is, isn't it? It's when we bring the deepest things that's inside of us up to the surface so that we can love it and we can release it and we can embrace it and we can integrate it and we can stop judging it and we can be who we're supposed to be. So in this big, giant, complex, complicated, crazy-making world where everybody is becoming more narcissistic all the time, the only thing we have control over is how we treat ourselves. If the voices in our heads are judgmental and angry and blaming, who are we hurting? We're hurting ourselves. Because who's thinking those thoughts? We're thinking those thoughts. If we're thinking, I can't believe this has happened. How horrible are they? What's going on? Why would they do this? They're awful, miserable, dysfunctional, horrible, horrible people. If we're thinking that, we're the ones who are getting injured because we're thinking that. It's in our brain. It's wiring our thoughts. It's having an effect on our immune system. It's having an effect on our digestion. It's having an effect on our ability to show up in the world and be who we really want to be. So the only thing you have control over, as this astrological chart has shown me, and it's been super accurate with a lot of things, is that we have to focus all of us on who we are. Aha, we're back. Sorry about that. My Wi-Fi can go out here, so I'm trying to get that all sorted out. When we focus on who we are, when we focus on where we're going, when we focus on what makes us feel good, and that means baths and walks and hugging a tree, and it means being kind to ourselves, and it means filling our head with affirmations, it means filling our heads with positive messages. It doesn't mean you deny or block out what's going on, the truth, the reality of what's going on. What it does mean, though, is that we start to realize that we're the only person that we can affect. And when we spend time affecting ourselves and putting ourselves in the best place that we can be, when we do that, we're able to make a difference. We're able to move forward. We're able to make changes in our relationships and ourselves, because the relationship doesn't need to change. What needs to change is us. And when we change our self-respect and we change our self-love and we change it in line with our thoughts and we change it in our heart with our feelings, when we start to actively do things which nourish a higher level of thinking, a higher level of being, when you do that, you're going to become the person that you wanted to be. And you're going to be able to help other people to be the people that they want to be. Because when you work on yourself and when you nourish yourself, you become regulated. And when you become regulated, it's like a song, it's like a symphony in your head and in your body. And that symphony, as we all know about entrainment with clocks and sound, positive sounds, positive messages, positive ideas will entrain the negative ones. So if you don't know what to do the thing you haven't done before, which is probably being very kind to yourself, even more than you ever thought you needed to be. Even if there's guilt and shame involved with it, you need to be very kind to yourself. All right? So that's your direction for the day. Be kind. Be gentle. Follow your astrological chart. See if it tells you to take a bath. And when you start being more in alignment with a higher level of thinking, then you're going to start having a happier life. So keep on the track. If you need some body-mind tools to help you get past all the fear and the pain that probably keeps you trapped from your past, we can totally clean that stuff up. We can totally get off your system so that you can move forward and start making way better strides than you were before. So if you need extra help, go to inspiremassage.com, find me, send me a message. We'll do a strategy call. We'll get you on a good path. And if you want long-term help, I do one-on-one coaching, and then we have a group coaching program. And I'll be opening up a new coaching program, not a new coaching program, but something that's really in alignment with my heart very soon. So I hope you have a great rest of your day, and I'll talk to you later. Bye.